Okay, so you guys know I'm an NDE enthusiast, and this was one that I I read some time ago, like probably like a year or more ago. I saw a narration on YouTube, so one of those YouTube videos with the images, and it has stayed in my mind for quite some time. Like it really to me is like something special. There is something special about this experience, and that's saying something because all of them are special in some way or another. And so I was, thinking about what is the most respectful, non-judgmental, and yet helpful way to start really analyzing NDEs and putting the puzzle pieces together. And I'm not sure that even now I'm open to suggestions. If you feel like this isn't right, let me know. But right now I'm just trying. So this is very experimental, and I don't, and I also want to make sure that I'm not really impinging on anybody. Like I don't really think I want to use any videos, even using the uh, even using the script or the text itself, represents some issues. But I feel like it's very important at this point, now that we have this coming out and people becoming aware and all this data out there, that it's important that we start analyzing it. We start putting the puzzle pieces together. And I'm not the only one who believes this. I've heard this in several different places by some big name people in this space. So I'm going to do my part, or what I feel is my part, or when I'm making my part. And what it also excites me, because again, I wasn't even looking for this. I was going to initially analyze 3 different NDEs that had similar aspects, and in searching came upon this one, and I had been looking for this. I couldn't find exactly where it was, and I had actually prayed. I'm telling you, the power of prayer is serious, it's real. So I prayed for direction in this so I can make sure I'm doing it right and doing something that's going to be impactful, helpful. And this came out of nowhere. It should not have been part of the search that I submitted, and yet this came up, and I said, oh my God, that's the one I've been looking for. So with that said, it's long. Like when you just kind of take the transcript and put it in Word, it's about 17 pages, maybe a little less. And I'm going to break this up. And, if no one watches it, it's fine. I'll watch it. But I'm telling you, this one is super. And I feel like there's something in it that we all need to be paying attention to. And that's just my opinion. So let me just jump into it. And what I'll do is, I'm not going to read it verbatim because that, I suppose that might be tedious. I'm going to try to have as much as I can happening, maybe some images on the side, maybe some outlines or tidbits on the other side, like just trying to make it more than just me just sitting here and reading or narrating this. And in some parts I'll just summarize. I already went through it and added comments, so I kind of have an idea of where I want to stop or where I want to pinpoint things, or just my little ideas on the side. So this happened in the 1950s. It's important to know when these happen because a lot of things change on the physical and spiritual point of view that could be the reason for some of these experiences or explain some of these experiences. So it is important. So in Germany, 1950s, early 1950s, and he's a young boy of 11 years old. He thinks he's about 11 when he was in their new home, and he leaves the flat, what he calls a flat, the apartment, and he hears a voice. So this is important. This is not the first time I've heard an NDE where someone's hearing a voice. And a lot of times, sometimes it could be a friendly voice, but I've heard quite a few very similar to his where it was kind of, you can call it a trickster or demonic. Something happens later in the story that makes me, made me go from maybe a guide to a trickster to demonic. Like definitely very interesting entity, whoever it was who's talking to him. So he hears a voice behind him. He's looking around, nobody. And he says the voice said to some effect that the quality of his world, that he knew it, was nothing compared to the one that he would be able to show him, that the voice would be able to show him. And this to me, and I wrote it in my little comments, this to me implies that the voice knew what was about to happen to him. And, from what I've gathered, there's multi-dimensionals, and even, demonics and stuff. Remember, time only exists for those playing this game, the humans in this game. So it's very possible that this was an entity that could see beyond time, and or at the least see possibilities, and knew that he was about to have this experience and that he was going to take advantage of it. So the kid said nonsense to himself and just started to run. It sounds like just a playful or whatever type kid, and he runs down the stairs, and there were only a few steps left when he jumped up high, knocking his head against the ceiling. Ouch. So this was the impact that caused the NDE or the OBE, however you decide to look at it. So it sent him to his knees. He passes out, falls into blackness. He remembers going through a black hose, is what he calls it. So hose, I'm thinking he means like a tube. So tunnel, black tunnel. We've heard this a million times. And I think I noted here as well that somebody had once said that the black tunnel is really just the soul. I guess you could say not the soul, well, maybe the spirit going through. Not the soul. I get a little confused about what they mean by soul and spirit, but the spirit, soul, your consciousness going through the silver cord, right? And so he goes, at the end of it, he felt like he was being drawn back, so being pushed back into his body by a mysterious force, but he resisted it because he did not want to go back through the tunnel again. So he pushed forward, and suddenly he found himself in a gray space. And I've heard of this gray space before as well. So, and again, you can put your comments, because I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen numerous NDEs and you might have your own thoughts. So a gray space, which some call, maybe the, what do they call it? Maybe purgatory, but bardo, or just that in-between space, right? And he says, I did not know where I was, and looking around, I saw in some distance someone slowly coming towards me. Actually, I did not see this figure at all because there was nothing to look at. However, I sensed a gray figure being there. So within the gray space, he sees a gray figure. I definitely knew that there was someone. I said, I have lost my way. Could you please show me the way back? Right? So I feel like right here is where the NDE part of his experience might have ended, because in the next moment here we have, because the next thing I knew, I was lying on the basement floor. So he's back, I don't want to say back in his body, but at least maybe beside it, or in it. He goes, I heard this extremely uncomfortable ringing noise, which gradually became more intense. Then the noise stopped, and all of a sudden I realized that a white gauze-like material was very slowly oozing out of my head. So when people are having, just beyond NDEs, like when people are having OBEs, many have said they've heard either very loud noise, frequencies, high-pitched ringing, noise is very similar to what he was hearing right before their spirit jumped out of their body. And this is also the second time that I've heard someone mention the soul looking like a gauze-like material. So a lot of this is ringing, quote unquote, true if you're looking at the similarities of experience. But I do feel like he had the NDE, he was pushed back, which seems to be the thing that they want to do anyways, kind of always send you right back to your body if you're not done. But then it looks like he came back out. He either came back out. It looks like he came back out into an OBE, and that's my opinion right here. So it took on the shape. He's talking now about the spirit or the gauze-like material. It took on the shape of a very long stocking and floated at a slight angle right above me. I became very embarrassed. This is just kind of silly but funny, because I did not want to be seen by anyone with this material coming out of me. So very interesting the way he thinks. Very interesting how he sees this stuff. So he's still a kid too. So I noticed that through most of this experience, he stays in that childlike persona or ego. Meanwhile, more and more of this gauze-like material was collecting itself under the ceiling, and I could not do anything to stop it. I did not feel any pain whatsoever in this process, and suddenly it dawned on me that I was out of my body. It must have happened the moment the oozing stopped. So he's looking down at his body, and he's just, he knew that it was his body. He assumed that it belonged to him, but maybe felt no connection like most people do when they leave their body. And he goes, I was shivering, which is very weird because usually people don't have any sensation. And I quickly wanted to return to my body in its warmth when I heard someone say, so again, this is very new. Like a lot of times people say the body feels cold, if anything, and that when they're out, their soul or spirit feels safe and content, usually with no sensations. So a little different there. So said he heard someone's, this is where we're now dealing with this voice again. It sounds like it's very much the same entity. Stop before going back, see what it is like outside. However, I did not pay any attention to the voice. Although I could not see any physical body but my own, this voice was quite near. Then I heard it again. This time it was begging me very earnestly, please do not go back, I beseech you. Why do you not want to discover your new faculties first? You may still go back if you do not like them. So this voice, I mean, it sounds like such a trickster to me. Like, I don't know if it's the city girl in me, but I would just really not be listening to this voice at all. And I, as I was reading this and watching it, I was really starting to wonder, like, first of who is this? It doesn't sound like the guardian angel. It doesn't sound like a guide, unless he's got a very interesting guide. And what is its intentions? Why does it want him out of his body so badly? So I was already very concerned for him. Let's just say that with what I was hearing. All right, so he hesitated, as he should. And after all, this voice was right. Why should I try it? Why shouldn't I try it? On that, the voice said quickly, test your mind. If you do, you will discover that you can think in a way you have never experienced before. The voice was right again. I could think very lucidly indeed, and I was able to understand very quickly with a directness that did not leave a trace of doubt. Then I heard the voice again. If you are willing to stay outside of your body, you will make a wonderful journey, and you will see many interesting things. However, you must decide quickly, so hurry up. So it's almost like a car salesman, like it's really trying to sell this to him, and it's telling him to hurry up. Like, don't think about it, just do it. Which is always never what you should do in those kind of situations, but very interesting. Like I'm telling you, this was so different for me to hear this type of experience, and it just really made me wonder too, because at this point I'm like, this is not his guide or his angel. Like, I just did not feel it. Again, that's my opinion. You tell me what you're thinking. But what I wondered was, and actually kind of reminded me of Pinocchio and like Jiminy Cricket, and then his hesitation was, Jiminy Cricket maybe, and then those, I don't remember the story too well, but like he was kind of pushed into that little wonderland by the tricksters. So I just can't help but get that feeling about what was happening in this moment for this little kid, or his soul. So eventually I began to consider the whole situation. It was really up to me whether I wanted to return to my body and live the life on earth with all its limitations and with all its joys, or to stay outside in this condition of clear thinking. And that is something that everybody else does mention, that our soul mind, or our true mind, is much, much smarter and just cognizant of everything, as opposed to this human limited brain. So the voice is still urging him to make up his mind. He finally gives in, and he's, the only thing that he's thinking about as he's saying goodbye to his body is, oh, how sad for my mother, So he mentions that he sees his body only as a wrapper or a burden of which he was free, like that genie coming out of the bottle. And so many people see the body like this once they get out of it. It's like, who's that? What's that? Or some people even think, ugh, gross, Anyway, so presently he, so now, he's, as a soul, it seems that we're very curious. So now, and we also can move at the speed of thought, and that's very important. If you haven't already heard this, it seems that it's very important. That's why we have to start focusing our mind and our thoughts, because once we're out, anything that we think, we could literally think up a hell, if we don't clarify and cleanse and detox and know how to focus our intention. So it seems like the thing that caught his attention was the sun. So he tries to get to the sun, but he's catapulted away from it. He starts to learn that there are invisible barriers between him and certain things, most importantly, like the stars and the sun. So he tries again. It keeps happening. He's getting pushed away from the sun. He can't seem to get near it. So it says he quickly, so he learns about the barrier, and he tries again, and this time he just stops right in front of the barrier in order to watch the sun, but this becomes boring for him. Suddenly the voice says, "There are more lights. As I was looking around, I saw in the distance a multitude of other lights, which shone much brighter than the earth's sun. I wanted to be with those lights. Although they were far, far away, I could reach them in an instant. However, each individual light had its own effective barrier that knocked me off into the blackness again every time I tried to approach it." So when he's saying the blackness, I don't entirely understand if he means just space or if he's talking about the void. But he is just clearly not being able to reach it. Like, there are, as you can see, some sorts of laws beyond the laws that we know in the physical universe that he has to abide by in the state that he's in, which I at this point think that he's just astral traveling, but again, my opinion. So he's getting in contact with these barriers. It's getting very unpleasant. He's saying his whole body feels like it's being violently shaken. And here I made a note because I was thinking, okay, is that a difference in frequency? Is it because he doesn't resonate with these, beings or these stars, these highly evolved entities? So that's what it's believed by some that the sun and the stars are. And it would make sense that we humans would call, what we consider the humans that we elevate stars, right? You think about Hollywood and they consider themselves stars. So everything's connected. Everything, is connected in some way. So anyway, so he hears a voice again, and it says, because it's clearly right behind him, next to him. It's watching him. It's manipulating him, it seems, or directing him, depending on how you look at it. So it says, "Look for a single bright light and approach it slowly. I chose an individual light whose brightness was much greater than all the other lights around it, and I approached it very carefully. I saw a huge ball burning incredibly bright. The voice told me that it was one of the many stars that I was able to see from the earth. I was watching this ball for quite a long time until I could not look at it any longer." So it looks like he finally found a star within our universe or galaxy that he could look at, but still he couldn't get that close. So this time he himself withdraws into the blackness again. He begins to consider his situation, like what do I do? He didn't want to stay in the blackness forever, and he figured there must be a way out. So he starts to look around and he sees a cluster of stars that were strangely twisted. I don't know what that means exactly per se, and I wish I could interview him to get more information, but I think I did the math and he might be 80, 90, or who knows if he's even still, if he had his final NDE and is in another plane. But so anyway, so the voice tells him they're all alike, go up. He's telling him to go up. So whatever he is in comparison, this blackness is below the stars. So he did not know where up was, but he tried it all the same and successfully, because he sees very far away over the blackness a shimmering line. So I guess a shimmering line of light. And he wanted to go there despite how far it was, but he was kind of scared that there might be another barrier, right? So he covered the distance instantly, right, with thought. All he had to do was think of it, and he was there. This time there was no barrier that would repel him. The light came from another world. So it's interesting how some things just come to him, that he knows something, like when people have these experiences, they say it's just a knowing. They just know that something is true. They can't tell you why or how. So I've noticed that throughout his experience, that there were certain things that he just knew, and clearly other things that he did not know. But he knew that this light was coming from another world, and he says, well, our world is black with lights in it. So he's kind of, I guess, maybe talking about our universe, because our world is not black with lights in it, but the universe is. The other world, or I guess our galaxy or solar system. So he goes, the other world is bright, as if everything's just bright. However, I could not enter this world. I was moving around in every direction trying to find a way in. He couldn't get a way in. And this also kind of coincides with other people's experiences, where they're saying that you have to resonate at certain frequencies to enter certain spaces. I would say spaces because there's a lot of different things that you could be going into, I suppose. And then some even say there's keys, and I've heard others say there's like musical notes you can play, like just all types of, very interesting and fantastical ideas that are just amazing if there's reality to them. So He soon realized that there was only one possibility: hurling himself down into the black abyss that lay right in front of him. And he hesitated. So here it gets a little confusing, but also you have to know that I think he might be writing, he's German. This is not his native language, so there are some maybe confusing situations because of the language difference. But I just couldn't really picture what was happening at this point, that it was a black abyss that was in front of him, and then this light world is what I'm guessing. So he did this. He got the courage. Actually, he did not have the courage at first, but the voice, once again, still there, said, "There is no other way. You will have to jump, jump, jump." I mean, pushing him, urging him, like this is really something else. So he jumps, and he doesn't know what happened, but the next thing he knows, very vividly, he finds himself moving at a tremendous speed through a tunnel of blackness. So these tunnels really do sound like they're like vortexes or the pathways to different experiences, dimensions, worlds, right? Okay, so he goes, "I had entered this tunnel head first," kind of like Alice falling down the rabbit hole, right? "My whole being was in a kind of a cylinder or pipe, and I shot through this tunnel like a capsule in the tubes of a pneumatic post. I was moving faster and faster until I was ejected far into this new universe. The blackness was instantly substituted by a sort of dim brightness." So it really is, in his mind, a different universe. So he tumbled over himself several times, and until he felt he was being slowed down by this new world. And he goes, why are they treating me so rough? That was so cute. "When I felt this new world closing in on me, while simultaneously the old world was retreating." And look at this. Very interesting how the old world retreats. It's almost like it's a physical thing. So while he was being ejected, he heard the voice shout at him, "This is your world. You do not belong to us. You have to remain in this world. Don't you ever try to come back." So talk about a trickster. It showed him how to get into this other world, and as soon as he's in it, it's like, "Don't come back. We don't want you. Goodbye." Close the door. Like, what is this? It's unreal. So he turns around and he sees a piece of the black world, so meaning our universe, which must have trailed in behind him while he was being ejected, start to withdraw into the opening where it was finally sucked up. And you hear the word sucked up a lot in regards to transitioning between universes. I've literally, in the same night, I was reading this and watching something simultaneously. And about an NDE, and she mentioned the same usage of that word, that you can get sucked into like a being's orb. Like if it's like, say, an angelic, they can suck you into their experience or their being or their energy. And the same can happen with a world, being sucked into another dimension or universe. So very interesting. So the moment the old world was shut out, I was immediately taken up by the new one, so much so that I was thoroughly convinced that I could only further exist in this new world. I had no choice anyway. So he's really feeling like he has like been born again to some extent. Like he really has no other connection to the old world. It's like Hotel California, right? The true Hotel California. You can go in, but you can't go back. So. Or you can't get out. So he's beginning to try to see if he can. No, this is another important thing. So he goes, "This scoundrel of a voice, he has betrayed me by forcing me into this world. There is no way back. This is final. Hopefully I will be able to breathe and not suffocate to death." So I like that he also starting to realize that this voice was a trickster. It's definitely not looking out for his benefit. And that's why I say I really was not beginning to think that he was his guide or his guardian. And that brings us to an even more important note, is like, where was his guard and his guardian, like angel? Like, that seems weird to me. I don't know what you think, but so anyway, so now he's trying to figure out if he can exist in this new world, and he's realizing he doesn't even have to breathe. And at this point, especially if he's astral traveling, he's not really talking at this point about what he feels that he is. He's not looking down at his body. He's not, some people in the NDE experiences start to say, okay, I'm an orb. I can see light. Or when I look down, I'm not seeing anything. I'm just consciousness. And he doesn't have that moment, so we don't know what he physically is. But there's a reason why I bring this up. When something's going to happen soon, it's going to make you wonder about what he's actually looking like right now? Or does he have the astral form that people say we take on when we just leave the body, where it looks like, kind of like a ghost, like a silhouette of what we look like. It looks like our body, but see-through, right? So, as I said earlier, everything around me was dimly bright. Although it was bright, I could not see clearly. So he's having trouble experiencing this world, right? I can't even say with his human body or his senses, because he's not even that. So whatever he is in this experience right now, he's not able to fully comprehend or understand this world. It's just not compatible to him, but clearly enough for him to be there, right? The impact of the finality of the condition I was in was overwhelming. Although I felt being part of this new world, I did not know anything about it. I felt utterly alone, betrayed, very tiny and insignificant. No other soul, far and wide. So he's looking around, he's not seeing anybody. He starts to literally almost have a tantrum, wailing about himself, having, about his situation, feeling miserable, not knowing where he should go, what he should do. And then all of a sudden he hears voices very far away. And he realizes it's two distinct voices. And they are coming to him. Again, he's not seeing anything, but he's just not even hearing the voices. We'll get to that in a minute. He's experiencing these voices. And they say something to the effect of, look there. Let me scroll down. Look there is a little soul. Look, there is a young soul. What is he doing here? How did he come here? So again, somehow whatever is in this space, this universe, understands what he is. Right? And it doesn't say, look at the little boy, look at the little human. It's saying the soul. So he is, he's officially, remember I was trying to figure out if he was a spirit or soul. Officially, these beings see him as a soul. And that in itself just shows that they have some maybe advanced understanding of this than we do, or what at least that he did, correct? So, the voices in this world were actually no voices at all. It was all telepathic. So he's getting these impressions that are very clear, not actual words, but he's understanding everything instantaneously. So let's see. So the voices get closest to him, and he's realizing that they are strangers, but they're friendly ones. Like they're looking out for him. They're not aggressive or trying to hurt him. So the beings urge him to go back. And that's, we hear that a million times. Go back. It's not your time. And when I saw this, I kind of started laughing again. I'm like, are earthlings the refugees of like existence? Are we always being told to go back? What is this? So he's kind of like, no, he's like, I'm not going. I can't go. This is my new home. Leave me alone. He's just really kind of pushing against him. He doesn't even know how to get back to Earth. He's just like, I'm good. I'm all right. Let me stay. And he starts to get upset. So, and he says these words, no one can force me to leave this world. I have a right to stay here because I am a part of it. This kid is something else. So the two beings must have understood what he was thinking, because he didn't sense their voices anymore. So at this point, they kind of get an idea of what's happening, and they start to put together their plan. He feels like one of them goes away to get help, and the other one starts to kind of keep him preoccupied. And this is when it gets really interesting, and it makes you start to question a lot of NDE experiences and experiences in general, because the other one, the one that stays with him, and remember again, he's not seeing them, he's not capable of seeing them, I'm guessing, but he knows that they're there, right? And he's telepathically hearing their voices or their thoughts. So he goes, the place turned, so everything around him, whereas he couldn't really see anything, wasn't sure what kind of environment he was in, it now turns into a beautiful meadow with flowers in it. And but again, he has that knowing. The soul has this understanding that this is not really what I'm in. This is just an image that is conjured up and suspended in this new world to keep him occupied or preoccupied. And just the fact that these beings have that capability, like so easily, like this is what we can do. We can create this for you. It changes the game if you think about it, right? If you really just sit and think about that power is unbelievable. So the being asked him to play in the meadow, but he couldn't. He literally had no idea how to, because remember, he doesn't even know what he is or how to move really. Like he's barely understanding what's happening. So he kind of just, I guess, just stays there. All of a sudden, he's aware of a tiny bright light far away in the sky, but it's coming very quickly near them. It's shaped like a ball and extremely bright. He mentions that it's brighter than our sun, but it's he starts to realize, though, and this is again something that a lot of people say when they think they're seeing source God, or they're seeing Jesus and other light beings. They're saying that it's a bright light that doesn't dazzle the eyes, it doesn't hurt your eyes. So this has been said many times. Not to say that it's the same beings. Again, who knows? Everything is a question mark. We have no clue in our current situation what's real, what's not. But I'm just mentioning that that's what they say. So there's something about this different type of brightness as opposed to like maybe the brightness of the sun. So the light stops a distance away from him, and he goes, it was a sun about the same size as our sun, but much brighter. And he, he's just staring at it, and he's noticing the differences in the way that the lights are here as opposed to where he came from, our Earth, our universe. So suddenly he realized that this light is scrutinizing him very closely. And on that, it opened up. A beam came pouring down from the light onto the soul, the boy's soul, and he heard it shouting at him. So the whole energy just changes all of a sudden, right? And it says, I can destroy you if you do not tell the truth about your being here. And the kid answers, the soul answers, but I do not know anything else but the truth. Then something happened that I will never, never forget. Love, pure, utter love came pouring down on me along with incredible warmth. My whole soul or being was immersed in this love. He lifted me up and gave me a kiss on my mouth. I'm like, what is happening here? This being of light loved me deeply, infinitely deeply, and more intensively. I was so happy. I could have stayed in this beam of love forever. If my story had been a lie, the being of light would have annihilated me. I had a clear conscience anyway, so there was no reason to fear anything. Talk about like a complete change, a complete switch, 180. Like, my God. And then the idea of this love, like, and I'm a love and light person, and that's my choice because I have some belief in the Matrix and the reincarnation trap and all that kind of stuff. I think there's different levels to this, but in order to survive and get through this life that is not too exciting for me, in this planet that seems horrendous to me, I have to believe that, ultimately there is one God, power over all, infinite, no beginning, no end, and it chose love, and love is the ultimate, and good wins over evil. Like, those are the things that I have to believe in. I won't fight anybody who thinks something differently, but in order for me to survive, that's what I decided to believe in. So it's concerning to me when I'm hearing all these NDEs where they're saying they feel this unconditional love. Like, I mean, it's all you hear most of the time. And that this being could emanate this to the point where it's almost like it manipulated him into believing that it loved him, and then it just switched it off. It's not the first time. It's the reason why I'm saying this, because as we go through it, you see that literally it's like a tactic. It's like a energy beam. Like it's like almost like it's some kind of device. Like you could switch it on and it makes somebody feel unconditional love, and then switch it off and they're cold and wondering what happened. And also maybe even more like what do you call it? The fact that it urged him to feel like it actually manipulated his emotions. Like he really felt like this thing is the best thing in the world, the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm so happy, and this is that. So it really makes you wonder, like, what kind of abilities do these beings have? And I mean, you would hope that the ones that have these abilities, because that's so extremely powerful, they would only be those who are benevolent, right? Because otherwise it makes things much more difficult to comprehend or to swallow, really. So this was really something else to me. So we're getting close to the part where I'm going to cut this off. Like, I'm going to stop right here. So gradually the loving became weaker, and I felt that something was wrong with me, something that made it very difficult for the light to continue with his love. So I guess it's not unconditional love. So I guess I can take all that back, right? Clearly not unconditional love right here. We're seeing that proven. So he was not. He was trying not to tell me why. Finally, however, he was not able to keep it up any longer, and he quickly said, "You have a smelly breath. You need a bath." This right here, this moment right here for me was everything. Just everything. Like the whole world stopped with these two sentences. Because first off, how does a soul have smelly breath or smell? Who knows? I really could start stuttering. I have no clue, but just unreal. And then it also shows that this being, I mean, I'm hoping that's not how God would respond to any of us, given what people say about it being all loving and all powerful. Like I don't think smelly breath would matter to Source, at least I hope not. So it already is making me wonder, who is this? The same way I wondered about that voice that was, urging him to leave his body and go have a joyride. Who is this? Who is this? And then you also wonder too, because like here's the other thing. Like I said, I'm love and light. But then you also look into the stories about, I guess you can say either Lucifer or Satan, and he's known as, he's, from what I've been told, and you can, let me know, but I've heard that he's about, he was the angel of maybe music and love, and known to be of light. That's what, Lucifer means, so to be of light. So all the things that, oddly enough, all the things that I love, but all the things that people kind of say they experience and they attribute it to God or Jesus, are also the things that would be attributed to that being that is not benevolent from stories. So there's a lot of confusion, lots of interesting paradoxes, and it just feels like lots of manipulations on the part of what's happening with us, because we don't know, like we really are that little kid in the schoolroom or in the schoolyard who doesn't know what the heck is going on, and everybody's taking advantage of it. That's what it seems like with some of these stories. It's like, oh my God, like instead of worrying about the things that we worry about in regards to accumulating wealth and getting more than the Joneses, we really should be figuring out who the heck we are, why we're here, and all that good stuff, and how to control ourselves when we're not in our body, and what are we when we're out of our body. Like these, so I'm saying all the things that we're just not paying attention to are the things that we should be. This world is completely unreal. So this really stopped me. This is probably part of the reason why this particular NDE stayed in my mind for so long. So he goes, I received the impression that I would take a bath similar to that I was used to on earth, but by dipping the whole body. It was made plain to me that this process was going to be unpleasant, but I could stop it when it became too painful. Very interesting that cleaning himself would be painful. So then there's a question mark, was he really cleaned, or did something else happen? Who knows? So I make another note here because it seems like their process of disinfecting, assuming that that's what's happening. I'm assuming a lot here, right? Who knows what's going on? But is very similar to that which was in the Theoba prophecy, if you've ever read it, when I think it's Michel is the way you might say his name. So when Michel is first, on board the ship, he needs to disinfect so he doesn't make the as you could say, the aliens there sick. And so they put, I believe, a yellow or a blue light that's supposed to, like, I guess kind of like a radiation or something, but just to cleanse him, to disinfect all the bacteria that are alien to them, so that they could be around him without like a spacesuit. So here again, they're using a light to disinfect, but this one is red, right? So we have now red, blue, and yellow. And what does that remind you of? Superman, right? So it's very interesting. So it goes, although I could not comprehend the reason, I was willing to do what the being of light wanted me to do. So again, it just seems like his whole will, like somehow they have some way of manipulating their will. It's very interesting. So I was lifted up and put into a red light. I closed my eyes. I could not feel anything. So he doesn't know how long he was in that state, but after a while he realized that he was being tossed around rigorously like he was in a washing machine. He said, that's enough. So immediately he was lowered down and the love and the warmth were switched off. But I still remained in this being or sphere. So he still remains in this entity because that's what he, was in when this happened. And I'll just stop there, but just right there, he was lowered down and the love and the warmth was switched off as if it really was not an actual emotion or feeling, but more like a mechanism. It doesn't get any more interesting than that. All right, so that's it. I'll just call that part 1, and I'll when I produce this, I'll add some images, and just if you've watched this, give me your comments on how I'm doing this, and then what you thought about the things that I mentioned, or what your take is on some of this. Because I'm telling you, I think this is one of the most interesting NDEs I've ever witnessed. So that's it. I'm signing off here. Peace.